Welcome to the Visitation. It's good to have you here. This is where we share honest and vulnerable moments of marriage and family life. It's good to be here. I'm Mary Beth Eberhard, and I'm here with my very good friend Lisa Iglesias.
Hey there.
And today we are going to be talking about parenting with mercy and grace and everything that goes kind of rolled up in between there. I know that you have 4 amigos and I have 8. Mine range from age 9 to 19. How about yours?
And mine range from 15 to 26.
Man, I remember when that range was much younger.
They were much younger.
I was thinking about this topic because mercy is necessary. It's so real. It's necessary for ourselves, to have for ourselves, and it's also really necessary to give to our kids. And I was thinking about how that has changed or grown, how I've grown through it, but also how I've communicated and taught mercy to my smalls and all the way up to my bigs, right? So when they were little, what did teaching mercy look like for you when they were little?
Goodness. Mary Beth, it's probably not a very pretty picture. I mean, there were moments I just would look at myself like, this is all I ever hoped for in my life. I remember being a little girl and dressing up my dolls and being like, and you'll sleep here and I'm going to push you there. And I just wanted to be a mommy so badly. And I was just found myself so many days just in tears going, I am awful at this. Everybody's crying and including me. And they're frustrated. I'm frustrated. What am I doing wrong? And I think way back when, I was 25 when we had our first child, and that's not very young. I mean, I should have had my head on a little bit straighter than I did. But I know that a lot of things, like when things would go awry, something that I thought was going to be so much fun, turned out to be a frustration experience for the littles or whatever, or they were being, they weren't following the rules or whatever. I really took it personally, and I would get so upset. It was more, I can see back, looking back now, it was more about myself and how I did not explain that well. I did not explain the expectations well. Like, had I come at this a situation, if they knew what the circumstances would be if they ... we would have all understood. And then when I have to come down with the inevitable consequence, then it would be maybe not joyfully accepted, but all this stuff. Hindsight's 20/20, but like in the moment, I would just be like, "Oh, you're in timeout, and you're in timeout," and in the moment, going, "This is not how I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to gather you in my arms." And like the pictures of Jesus, like the little children were at his feet, and they couldn't help but just like gaze at him, listen to him, be with him. I mean, that is the reality of little children, but also the reality is they're asserting their own little selves, the self that God made them to be. And when they're little, it's a teeny version of all that they're going to be when they're big. And I want them to be all of that. So I was slow to take it to prayer. If there's something I could change back then, a lot of people say, "Oh, I wouldn't change a thing. Look how everything's turned out so well." Well, yes, by the grace of God. I think I would have changed that. I would have gone to prayer quickly and gone, "Okay, Lord, this is not how I expected it to go." I mean, I don't mean to my children often say, "Oh, Mom, it was not like that. You only remember the bad stuff. You only remember the hard stuff." And I think maybe that's a little bit of human nature. I don't only remember the bad stuff, but those are the parts that I like, "Oh, Lisa, you missed the mark. Oh, you could have done that with so much grace." Now, going to your home when your kids were little, and many of them, well, everybody was little when we first met. Wow, what an education it was for me, because I saw it happening in real time, like mercy, charity, grace. And maybe in your mind, it wasn't looking like that at all. But I had never heard a mom correct in the way you do. I'd never heard a mom gather them back together, kind of refocus, kiddos and get back into the things they were doing or whatever, or even the correction, a lot done even with just a tender look, maybe you had to, touch that shoulder firmly, like, okay, look in my face. Uh, I would drive home. I was glad that I had the long ride home because I had so much to process. So I am very grateful for learning that from you.
Oh, thank you.
Mm.
I was just thinking it's interesting as we reflect on, mercy within parenting. I think about the beginnings where the mercy came not as quickly. I think about the consequences actually that I would give to my children and how they didn't relate to the action. So they took a cookie from a cookie jar, and I would say no TV, or something like that. And what I have learned is that it's very important. This is like the foundation of my parenting is modeling, and having that open communication with them. Sometimes it bites me in the butt and I don't like it. There's positives and negatives to it, right? Because I invite that conversation, and sometimes I really don't want to hear what they have to say. But I have learned to tether the consequence more uh, more acutely to the action. But here's the thing that really struck me, and there's a moment in particular in parenting that I remember. One of my kids had he had done something with whether it be technology, like he was playing on his device when he shouldn't have, or it was something, and I had it. And I came and I took that device away, but I took it away in a way I didn't communicate. Like, you actually broke my trust, and here is why this is happening. And so I'm going to take this now.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can show me self control, then we can open this discussion again. That's the language that a very calm and gathered Mary Beth would have. I'm able to say self-control is important. You are not showing it. Trust is built over time, right?
Yeah.
But I took it, I grabbed it, I and I stamped down the stairs, and I put it on the counter right there, like full display, not like somewhere separate. And man, we could feel the tension, right?
Yeah.
And it was really bothering me. And then I went to my room and I prayed because I was like, I don't like how I feel. This is not who I am. Jesus, help me. And he said, give it back. And I was like, give it back. Oh no, it's not going back, Jesus. No. And he was like,
you're lucky I didn't smash it.
Right. Give it back. And so I went up and I took the laptop because I have learned in my life to follow what Jesus says. It's not easy. Wow. So I grabbed the laptop, right? And I walked up the stairs, and my everything about my body, Pastor, I just remember, I can even feel it. Like, I sat down in his room and he saw me carrying it, and he looked at me like, she's gonna like throw it out the window. She's gonna something, right?
Something big.
And I laid it between us and I said, I am giving this back to you. And he said, I don't want it. And I said, that's not the point. I'm giving it to you. He said, Mom, I don't really deserve to have that. And I said, again, that's the point. Mercy is not something that's earned. Mercy is something that's given, son.
Powerful.
And I am giving this to you because I'm having mercy on you in this moment. And I'm also giving it to you because Jesus said that he wants me to learn mercy as well. So in this moment, this is yours. Now I'm going to trust you. That trust is built over time. And so we're going to begin again. And that phrase, begin again, is crucial in my family. I think it was St. Teresa of Avila. She would meet the sisters outside the confessional, and she would embrace them, and she would put her hands on their shoulders, and she would say, begin again. And I use it countless times all day long to myself, in my parenting, in my marriage, but also with my children. Because I'm not perfect. I mess up constantly. I get frustrated. There's 10 people in my house. 10 people, 3 dogs, 2 cats, and a partridge in a pear tree. And it gets like, just too much. Yeah. And the recognition that we have to have mercy within ourselves, and mercy just within, it has to flow. It has to flow. So.
Oh, that is beautiful. That's beautiful. I can picture that just happening, and I would love to, know, you know, then what, how it went, then how did it turn out?
He changed. He changed. He rose. He rose to the occasion. It's not to say that 10 years later we don't
Of course.
we're not still visiting this, but there's a trust. Giving the opportunities to your kids to build trust is so important. And I think also the humility to allow your children into your vulnerable moments of failure and saying, like, hey, I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. And I was frustrated and it was not the best version of myself. And you know what you deserve? You deserve the best version of me. And so I'm going to try again, and I'm going to tell you that you are worthy. And how you spoke to your sibling and that it wasn't okay. I heard it. It hurt my heart. It hurt theirs. And I know it hurt yours because you know who you are called to be.
Right.
And I don't think I need to say any more to you. I think you can rest in that. And I'm not going to mandate an apology. I'm not going to mandate that. I'm not going to take anything away from you because you know enough. You feel it. And you can begin again when you're ready. And it empowers them to own their virtue and to
Wow.
strive for it.
Amazing.
So
I absolutely love that. Oh my goodness. I mean, I have demanded the apology. And you will go in there this moment. And but I what you just said was so beautiful, and that's what I was listening for, waiting for, was you said he rose, or she, or whatever, one of the kids rose to their up to that
virtue.
that trust, that
Yeah.
virtue that when else do they get to learn virtue, practice virtue, except in those trials, those struggles, those challenging moments. A beautiful thing is like the idea of correcting the action, but like remembering and reminding them how beautiful they are, how wonderful they are. That this is something you said that was not kind. That was, that's not the way we speak. That's not the way we talk here. Whatever, and who you are is just so gentle and loving, and you build people up. And going
think
back
it's
to reminding them like that you are good. And,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important to remind them of who they're created to be and that they are recognized as that. They are seen as that person. So,
Yeah, you're listening to St. Gabriel Radio, and this is The Visitation. My name is Lisa Iglesias, and I'm here with my dear friend, Mary Beth Eberhard, and we are continuing to lean in, talking about...
we're talking about mercy and parenting. We are talking about the grace that is necessary in those moments. And I know for me, the recognition that Jesus needs to be the forefront of, he needs to be the well of my parenting, especially if there are any young parents out there, to really learn these lessons earlier, because it only gets harder. When you're up against a young teenager, growing young adult, and they're becoming independent, and they in early days they would have been out on their own.
I
right?
was just thinking that, like, they bring to you the biblical passages about, well, they were married at this point, Mom, like they were doing their own trade at this point, and you're like, yeah.
And there's a part of you, right, that want to point out, well, you think so, son, so, or you think so, daughter. Well, let me tell you what that looks like. That looks like you doing this, and you start listing
and they
things
glaze
off.
over,
right? And then, but they glaze over. But what does that do? It makes them, it diminishes them. And our goal as parents is to build them up, and help them see the fullness of who they're created to be. And so even in those really challenging moments of parenting, when you are laid low with grief, or laid low in disappointment or sorrow, that, some of the actions that maybe they've chosen, and you are called as a parent to show mercy. And mercy doesn't mean there are no consequences.
Correct. Yeah.
It just doesn't. It means that you are loved. It means that you are seen, you are forgiven, but you are held accountable. And that mercy, I know we have a plaque. Actually, it's not even a plaque. I wish it was. I should have it made. It says, it's written on my grocery list whiteboard above our pantry, but it says, your day starts and ends with mercy. And we live by that in the Eberhard home. You know, I really do, because I need to have mercy for myself, with myself, for, man, I forgot to pray. There goes my day. No, that's not. My
Right.
day doesn't go. My day begins again. And so I offer it to the Lord, right? Those recognitions of every minute, every second, every hour is a moment that can be given to the Lord. We can have U-turns, we can, all those turning our hearts back to the Lord. And I love parenting. It's, it's who I was created to be. And teaching those lessons with my kids has been a joy.
Earlier you had mentioned about, mentioning, our own, maybe where we had struggles, or as an adult, like, or we made a mistake or whatever. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. Like, oh, well, if I tell him or her that I partook in this,
Right, I made this choice or that choice.
These choices, oh, well, then they'll be like, yes, carte blanche, I can do that, Actually, if you tell the story and what ends up transpiring, after choosing the wrong choices in life, and then how you think of it now, it really paints a good picture. It's almost like, oh, then I don't have to try that out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, there's some of us who have to try it all out, and there's room for that in
There's
mercy
lessons
as
to be
well.
learned
There's lessons
there
to
too.
be learned, because that ends up being part of their glory story as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you've had a very sheltered, very, simple life where maybe you didn't, break a lot of rules in life, we learn lessons there as well. Maybe it was out of fear that, I didn't try, any of those quote fun things in life growing up or whatever. Well, what was it? I think it was mostly a fear of, like, respect for my parents. Like, I would never want them to go, oh my goodness, you did what? Or whatever. But I think letting them know, or even something in real time, not necessarily like what we're doing, as a kid. Oh, I did this as a kid. It was really dumb. Don't do donuts with your car. You could hit a pole, or whatever. That's like, oh, as a kid. But like now in real life, I mentioned like taking off a couple of social media apps off my phone. They're still there. I can get to them, on the laptop, but it won't, be right in my face and a constant, like, a reminder. Oh, hey, probably should check in, see what's happening in the whatever social media. So I told my kids. In fact, it was almost like, if I tell my kids I'm taking it off, it needs to stay off my
There's
phone.
an accountability.
There was that, but then I wanted them to know, you don't have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have friends, you have like real time relationships where you call each other, you text each other, you're praying for each other. My goodness, that wasn't part of my life, when I was super young. So, that's real. And then I said, okay, I took those things off, guys. And they said, oh, Mama, we're so proud of you, and that we're going to pray for you. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I had lovely conversations with my mom. We talked about, encouraging, she would encourage me. But like, when your teenager tells you, I'm going to pray for you, Mama, that you have the fortitude to get, I'm like, who are you? How did you learn to talk like that? I didn't teach you that.
But you did, through your example. And I was just thinking, as parents, we have to empower our kids. And, you do that, Lisa. You do that really well. And I try to do that as well for my kids. I was thinking of a funny moment. I tell my kids that they have control of like what they allow in their hearts and out, right?
Yes.
So if one of their friends, or honestly, one of the siblings will say something like, you're a stupid head, or you're this,
Yeah.
and little, whatever. I'm always wanting to think of the Grinch who's so like Lucy Lou or whatever,
Yeah.
like comes down the stairs, right? Like little sweetie comes down and she's like, so and so called me a doo doo head, and my honest thing is, are you a doo
Oh
doo
my
head?
goodness, I've said that too.
And she'll say, well, no, and I'm like, then you don't have to let that into your heart,
don't
right?
receive that.
So we have taught that lesson, but here's the funny thing. So then comes, the culprit,
The perpetrator,
right?
yes.
He comes down and we're having the discussion, and I'm like, what do you think you need to do here? Why did that happen? So much time is spent in this, and that's something that needs to be said too. It's worth it, but it is time. Like, you're pumping time into it. But so I watch, and he goes over and he's having a whatever conversation, and I see this little saucy munchkin of mine put her hands on her hips, and she's like, "Well, I don't have to let your sorry into my heart," and I thought, "Ooh,
Ooh, whoops.
and so we recognize that, and so and the conversation continues. You could be like, "Are you kidding me? Your brother just came. He offered himself. But you got to follow. You're constantly following through. That's why we're here as parents. That's the necessity. Like it's so important to invest in that way. That's how we form souls. We form them in virtue. We form them to change the world. Imagine if people communicated that way. You broke my trust,
Right.
and trust is built over time. And so we're going to begin again, but we're not going to begin where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. Instead, I'll speak for myself. We respond emotionally, and then, well, I'm just never going to text that person again, or I'm just not going to be available for them again, or whatever, and close ourselves off. Which that's not solving anything, right?
No.
And I remember hearing when the kids were at the different ages, and I remember hearing like one person, I thought it was so callous and cold, but she was telling me that sometimes she just has to look at these children like they're not hers. And respond to them the way the most wonderful Montessori trained, exceptional Swedish teacher or something would respond. So some of the examples you just shared are what I would imagine that loving, charitable, merciful parent would sound like. And then when I think about my responses, they sound more of the rough around the edges, response, because I'm coming from this place of that emotional answer. But so I don't recommend that particular suggestion of pretend that they're not yours, but instead instead see them as that gift. And even though they're in that struggle, even though they're coming up with the different responses, I absolutely think that's hilarious. And that you didn't laugh when that child said, I don't have to let your sorry into my heart. I don't know how you didn't laugh. But to see that, and to recognize, oh my goodness, this is part of this growth. This person is just growing just right now.
Right.
This is transformative.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about mercy, it's important to recognize that as our kids get older, we have to teach them where the fount of mercy is. And so we are also called to model the sacraments. So, I had a kiddo who, I don't know, minor little skirmish within the house, something like that. And, oh, Mom, can I go to confession? And I'm looking at my calendar thinking like, oh my gosh, yes. I mean, like,
How do you
thank you,
say no?
Jesus,
How do you say no?
that you want to go to confession.
Yes.
But also like, oh, I got Tuesday night, Thursday night. And I'm thinking like, Mary Beth, you have Tuesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. And you can also just say, hey, Father, can you hear this little amigos confession? I guarantee it would be small, like just short. But we've got to go. We have to go, because if we do it when they're young, it's going to be that place they turn when they're older. And as they get older, we know the temptations are bigger, and because we fall victim to them all the time. So I want to know that the relationship that I'm fostering within for Mercy points them toward Jesus. I always want to be that advocate, just like Mama Mary. I want to point toward Jesus, because then as they grow older, we're able to release them. That's really what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to release them, right? And so they go to. We can say like, go to confession, and trust. I don't have to revisit that with them. It's between them and the Lord, and the relationship that we share is steady. You know what I mean?
And ultimately, that is what we want. We want them to know Jesus and know his love and rest in his love and grow in his love. So even if confession is something that isn't your first love, we can model it. We can, again, not necessarily fake it till we make it, but we can model. You want to go to confession? Let's find a time. Let's get you there. Whatever. Be real. Be even if it isn't
Go
something
yourself.
correct. Even if it isn't something that is your first thought, but guess what? Something about how you've lived your life has taught your children that is a place they want to get to. So, yeah.
I think that that's beautiful. I think it's the goal, is that we teach mercy by modeling mercy itself. That's the way Jesus lived here, and we're called to be his example.
Amen.
So, on that, let's take a moment, friend. Thank the Lord. It's just so good to gather with you, and I'm grateful for it. Thank you, Jesus.
You're listening to St. Gabriel Radio. Thanks for joining us for the Visitation. I'm Lisa Iglesias here with Mary Beth Eberhard. We look forward to being with you again soon.